Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tilly. I'm the CEO at Now Press Play, and this is our webinar all about making learning matter, and it's an introduction to Now Press Play's immersive curriculum aligned experiences. So what we're going to do today, we're going to tell you everything that you need to know about Now Press Play. You're going to get to see pupils immersed in one of our experiences. You're going to get to hear from these two lovely teachers on how they use our solution to make every child's learning magical, meaningful, and memorable. So let me introduce you to these lovely people who've kindly given up their time after school to join us. First up, we have Martin Bailey, and some people may be familiar with Martin. He is the director of Animate to Educate, which is his very own company that he set up, and it is well worth checking out if you don't know about it already. He works as a primary computing advisor to deliver pupil workshops and staff training sessions to schools, and he brings the curriculum to life. And I've seen him in action, he definitely does. Martin is also the computing subject lead at Ellington Primary School, which is based in Morpeth, and Birchwood Primary School in Birmingham. And sorry to expose you here, Martin, but he has over 25 years experience as a primary school teacher. Martin, do you want to give everyone a wave and say hello?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for that lovely introduction, Tilly.
And last but not least, we have David Mordue, and David's been involved in education for the past 17 years as a teacher and then as a senior leader. He is currently head teacher at Bishop Ian Ramsey Church of England Primary School in County Durham, where he's been the head teacher for almost 3 years. And he's also been the Key Stage 2 lead at Lanchester EP Primary School in County Durham, as well as class teacher and computing lead at 2 other schools in Gateshead. David, hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invite.
It's great to have you both here. We also have the wonderful Steph, who you can see. Steph is our content executive. She's here to support us during the webinar. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat, and we will be able to answer them either as we go, or we'll have a look at them at the end. Okay, so now we're going to start by asking you, the audience, a question first. So over to you, Steph, for a poll. Yeah, so hopefully you can all see this poll has popped up and it's asking, have you heard about Now Press Play before? So if you could just give me an answer there. Give you a couple of minutes. Not minutes, seconds. Steph, when you're ready, let me know. Okay, great. So it looks like the majority of people are new. They've chosen A. This is our first time, so welcome. For those of you who are completely new, I'm going to give you a tiny bit of a blurb about Now Press Play. We are an audio resource that gets every pupil in your primary school to live their learning physically. To get their learning physically, emotionally, and meaningfully. So our immersive adventures extend life experiences, embed vocabulary and knowledge, and they finish with literacy and speaking opportunities. And each child in the class puts on a pair of wireless headphones and they step into their subject, connecting through it through sound, storytelling, and movement. So before we hear from you, Martin and David, we're going to watch some clips that we took when we visited Martin at Ellington Primary School. And your class was doing the tutors, is that right, Martin?
Yeah, so it was a year 5 class, and it was the launch activity, the hook to the new tutors topic a couple of weeks ago at the start of autumn 2.
Brilliant. All right, let me just share my screen and we'll have a look at that video.
You work in the royal stables at Windsor Castle, home of Queen Elizabeth I.
Not all the Queen's subjects are as loyal as these townsfolk. Some even want her dead.
If Her Majesty was in danger, you'd do anything to protect her.
He and the Hartley family are behind this dark plot.
She's getting rid of you, and you know why. It was secret information to do with the Queen.
Be gone, child. Please. You must not tell anyone what you have seen.
Stop that drooling, unless you want to join the Queen's food tasters.
My family will always be loyal to the Queen. We simply want to practice our own religion without fear of punishment.
Okay then, Year 5, so we just finished our Tudors experience in the hall. So now we're going to recap. We're going to talk about the different events that happened. We're going to discuss, so a chance for you to talk to each other. And then at the end, we're going to do a quiz to see how much you have learned. What did the Queen give you? She did. You give her a handkerchief, and did you just throw it away?
No.
What did you do with the handkerchief?
Put it in the pocket.
Put it in the pocket. Did you just scrunch it in your pocket?
No, fold it.
It is fun, it's like a lovely like souvenir, isn't it?
She had a bottle and then she put it in her pocket, and then before she did that she was looking around in case anybody was watching her.
I think it's the part when we ended up having to sit down and the people from the village threw rotten fruit and veg at us.
They did. So what did Catholics want to do to the Queen and why?
They wanted to poison the Queen.
Why did some Catholics want the Queen dead at that time?
Because I don't think they liked that our dad was King Henry VIII.
Before Elizabeth was born, what had her father, Henry VIII, done to England's religion? Had he broken away from Rome and found Catholicism? Or had he broken from Rome and founded the Church of England? So A, he broke from Rome and founded Catholicism. And B, he broke from Rome and founded the Church of England. Well done, it's B, it's B.
Fab. Thank you so much for that. It was great to see you in your class in action, Martin. So could you tell us a little bit about what it was like delivering that experience and how your class responded?
Yeah, I think sort of not just with that experience, but with any Now Press Play experience. I know both Animate Educate and Now Press Play will share that strapline of bringing the curriculum to life, and I think that is 100% what any of the Now Press Play experiences do. And you know, that word to be immersed in your learning, I think is, you know, it's not just something that you know, is used in advertising. It's something that is 100% true, that, you know, most of the experiences are around, you know, 20 to 30 minutes long, and for that entire time, you know, the children often will say, you know, I feel like I was really there. You know, it's that real sense of you know, getting to know a topic, getting to know a person, an event, whatever it might be. Because yeah, of course we try to take children on physical sort of trips around school, but you know, that's not always possible either, because financial or because of what the topic was. So to be immersed in the learning in that way is something incredible. And you know, the way that the children are engaged and what then, you know, follows up afterwards is something truly special. But you know, you've seen a little bit there of the look on the children's faces and stuff like that. It's not something that you can replicate in other ways. You know, if you were trying to just teach in a traditional method at the front of the classroom, or, you know, watching a video or reading a text or whatever, and that, you know, there's no way you can get across the emotions of the period, the people, that everything that's involved. So you know, probably around about 8 or 9 years now I've been using Now Press Play across different establishments, and whether it's the first time children do a experience or whether they've been doing it for 6-7 years in school, that buzz, that love of learning is there every single time the pink headphones come out the box.
I think that's interesting, isn't it? You talked about that emotional connection that they have, and you see that in their faces. And then what we saw afterwards was our recap, discuss, and quiz, where they're extending what they've learned into kind of vocabulary, oracy. Does that make a difference, do you think, when they start talking about it from being in it?
Oh, massively. And it's you know, the vocabulary, the subject knowledge that they have, having done Now Press Play, again, you know, in my opinion, cannot be replicated in any other way in the classroom situation. And you've had that bit where, because of the headphones, like for every minute of that experience, they're locked into the experience, they're taken on board, you know, every single word. So, you know, the knowledge that I have when you do that recap, discuss, and quiz, but, you know, pretty much every single child is telling you the right answers. They're feeding back everything that you want. And yeah, you know, you mentioned, you know, obviously that you need that subject matter, you need that vocabulary, you know, to be able to talk about something. You can't just say to a child, tell me about something or someone to do with a tutor period or whatever it might be. You've got to give children that experience, and certainly, at the upper key stage 2 level that was, you want that emotion to come across in their writing, in their speaking and listening activities, and so on. So yeah, to me, there's nothing like Now Press Play for preparing pupils in that way.
And David, for you, you're a head teacher and you've taken Now Press Play to a variety of schools you've been at. Could you sort of tell us why it is that it's travelled with you as a resource?
Yeah, so I think similar to mine, I've probably been using it for kind of 7-8 years now in different ways, as class teacher, as senior leader, deputy head teacher now. It was the first resource that I brought across to my new role as deputy head here at Birchwood and Ramsey. And I think that says a lot about the resource, in terms of that engagement that you get. Like Martin says, I don't think there is a resource out there that you get that kind of 100% engagement from all pupils, regardless of ability, regardless of need. You do get that full engagement. And I think you touched on there as well, that sort of oracy element and that emotional literacy. The children completely immerse themselves in that experience. They completely put themselves into the shoes of that character. Whether it's going back in time or putting themselves in a different context, and that leads to some really good outcomes as well. I mean, we've seen here some real high quality writing, again, of children of all abilities, off the back of an experience. And I think it's that immersive nature that really kind of sets it apart from other resources out there.
That's interesting that you're talking about kind of ability, and it sounds like it's almost leveling the playing field a little bit for you. Can you tell us a bit more about how that sometimes, maybe there's other resources where it hasn't worked? What makes it?
Yeah, I think it does level the playing field. I think we had an Ofsted inspection earlier this year. One of the things that Ofsted looked at was our inclusivity as a school, particularly when it comes to sort of send pupils and our offer for those pupils. We use Now Press Play as an example of a resource that does completely level that playing field, where our send children can completely access that, which is unusual for a resource. Often you'll have to have some element of kind of adaptation or differentiation, whereas I think with Now Press Play, all children in that class can access it and feel part of the experience together as a class.
I'm gonna move us on and just ask, kind of following on from that, are there any specific children where, maybe in the school you kind of had that moment of, wow, that's really had an impact that I wasn't expecting, and I guess open that up to both Martin and you, David?
Yeah, well, certainly I think we've touched a lot about engagement, but we all know in any setting that you have children that at times find traditional methods of teaching challenging, and in any 20-minute, half an hour period as a teacher, you're dealing with low level behavior issues on a fairly constant basis, regardless of the class, the school. And it's seeing those children, and I can think of countless children who, it's the one time almost in a week and a half term where they are just fully engaged, and they're not needing one-to-one support. They're not needing you to be saying, put that down, stop doing that, eyes forward, whatever it might be, that, they are, truly engaged in the way that you would want any child to be, sort of in education. So it's not about one, it's about several, but it, again, we mentioned in the last bit about like leveling the playing field. And I think that is the sheer joy that you have that moment as a teacher, that you'd almost want every lesson and every session to be like that for half an hour. Every single member of your class is engaged, their facial expressions, their answers, that everything and that. So, yeah, I can name countless in that, but, particularly thinking about whether they be SEND, whether they be AL or whatever it might be, but those children that, do have difficulties for a variety of reasons on a day-to-day basis, and just seeing their love of learning that.
That's so important, isn't it, to kind of just enjoy something at school. I mean, obviously there's lots of other moments that children enjoy in school, but when you're all together in that moment, there's something quite unique about the whole class activity, feeling everything at the same time. What about you, David?
Yeah, totally echo that from Martin Reed. I think we know that, not all children learn in the same way. A lot of children will learn more through movement and being active. And I think what we've seen again is that full engagement and, that leveling of the playing field, so that pupils, regardless of background, regardless of ability, can fully access that resource, and not just access it, actually really enjoy it and get so much out of it. The discussion that it then leads itself to afterwards, the writing that can then come from it. So it's not just that kind of standalone 20-25 minutes. Great, we've loved it. It's afterwards as well. The impact of it as well, I would say, is really, really strong. And I think, what we've seen is it, just talking about particular pupils, pupils that stand out for me, that particularly might be more quiet and shy in class, in a more formal classroom setting. You really see them kind of come alive in the experience and see different sides to them. You then see them become more confident in speaking about their experience afterwards. And I think that's a lovely moment as a teacher as well, when you see those quieter children in your class who in that more formal setting might not always come forward. Actually, again, it levels the playing field in that way as well.
Yeah, as we're talking about some of those impacts that are really hard to measure sometimes, but are just equally as important about the whole child and their development and those soft skills.
I think you forget about peer approval, because that's something, we can all relate to from our own child, and it's something that ultimately does happen in most lessons in school. That, I suppose to some extent you might think about Now Press Play as being almost a little bit drama-esque because of what you're doing during it. But if you did what I would call a traditional drama session in the classroom, at best you're maybe going to have about 6 or 8 children who would be fully engaged in that, and there would be a good 50% of the class who just really wouldn't want to put themselves forward to act, to perform that. But as soon as you put those headphones on, you do very quickly get lost in that world. You're not worried about, have you had the nod, the wink, the seal of approval from, that child in the class, and that you see every single child just engaging and getting lost, getting immersed in the experience. So yeah, as David says, it is just like, it's 100%, engagement, and there's a real, beauty and love of that as a teacher, to see your whole class sort of, taking part. Because I struggle, like as you said at the start, 25 years, I'm generally struggling to think of another lesson, another activity, another session outside of a Now Press Play experience in 25 years of teaching, when I can feel like you have that, half hour that is completely like that. And I think most teachers, if they're being brutally honest, would say the same.
Yeah, I think as well, you can think of sort of times throughout a school year. We started practicing our nativity songs this week. In the hall, there's always sort of 1 or 2 children, tends to be you kind of up at key stage 2, year 6, that that'll kind of, you can see they're not comfortable in that sort of situation. Now Press Play, I've not seen one child who doesn't fully get engaged. Just like Martin says, as soon as they put the headphones on, something happens, and they just, all that sort of any embarrassment that they might have in those sort of situations normally, like singing in front of everyone else in the hall, it just kind of goes, and they can just lose themselves in that character for that sort of 20-25 minutes.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes I think people will look at their headphones and say, well, I've had that question to me, like, why do you need the headphones? Like, is that just a gimmick? But I think what I'm hearing from you guys is very affirming. It is a special way of bringing that 3-dimensional experience into the world of the children, and they get to engage their imagination, and whatever that character is, they can see what it looks like and share afterwards. Oh, well, I thought this person looked like this, and sort of see the power of their own creations as well.
Yeah, it's like, I think a child said to me like fairly recently, they said it's like VR in my mind, and like, it is that sort of sense, because often, nowadays, yeah, you could look at a set of headphones and think, well, is that not a little bit dated technology and stuff like that? I remember having a set of headphones and listening to storybooks when I was a child, but it's not. It's such a powerful, such a meaningful, such a current, and yeah, actually, obviously the mind is more important. And if you compare it to like being immersed through something like VR or whatever, you know, to me, now press play is a million times, you know, more productive than that. And for a child to say it's, you know, to have the power of those images in their mind is actually, you know, yeah, a far more meaningful resource. And yeah, I generally can't think of anything like that as a stimulus and as a hook to topics and to learning.
So if there was anyone listening who's kind of thinking, okay, this is interesting, could you, David, speak about it from a kind of management point of view of like, how do you implement a resource like Now Press Play, and what are the resistance or barriers you may have had when you brought it to schools?
Yeah, I think sort of as a head teacher, you know, you look at when you look to kind of bring in a new resource, let's be honest, you look at your budget, you know, and we know budgets are really, really tight at the minute in most schools, if not all. What I would say about Now Press Play is that value for money that you get, though. And you really do. And hopefully kind of we've said already how much the children get out of it. What I would say as well, just for any kind of sort of heads or management looking at bringing it in, what we've done, which has sort of worked really well from a financial point of view, is because it's an active learning resource, we do use our PE and sports premium for that, and we know that that's a ring fence pot of money each year, and we always set aside some of that for Now Press Play, so it's not coming kind of centrally out of your budget. What I would say as well is in terms of potential barriers, I think whenever it's any sort of tech, you know, we've all got staff who, you know, for whatever reason, they're just not that confident when it comes to technology. What I would say about Now Press Play is, you know, it is really so simple and easy to set up, to use. And even some of my staff who are less confident when it comes to IT and computing, you know, one demo of it, they can use it really effectively. What I would say as well is, I know when we brought it in as well, you know, you do get that kind of 2-week sort of free trial, and it's definitely worth sort of taking you guys up on that offer, just to kind of see it for yourself and sort of try before you buy. But what I would say is, you know, you will find if you do purchase it, you know, a real value for money resource. What we do is we map it against the curriculum, and I would say that as well as another sort of tip, if you like, make sure as a senior leader or your computing lead, you know, you really do map it throughout your curriculum, so that if, you know, in year 5 they're doing Romans, you know, it's part of that sort of medium-term planning, so they know that as part of their 6-week block on Romans, they are going to have a Now Press Play experience either at the start as a hook, like Martin mentioned at the start of the webinar. We use it a lot as kind of the hook into the topic, or as a stimulus for further writing, further discussion. So I would just make sure that it is, you know, mapped across your curriculum so that it's there and staff know when to use it.
Yeah, I mean, my experience of working with schools is that is always a critical element. If you're bringing in a new resource, like how do you sequence it into the busy weeks that you already have, because then you start to get the value when it's used. And I don't know if either of you want to sort of share that it's a resource from reception all the way through to year 6. And, you know, when you've been in a school for a long time, have you seen that repetition of use sort of helping in any areas as well with children?
Yeah, I think definitely. And there's not many resources out there that are, you know, that you get that complete sort of range of, you know, key stages and phases of education, that you can see it is just as powerful with EYFS as what it is with upper key stage 2. You know, that's relatively unique from that point of view. So again, you know, it's, as I would say to people, is as Dave has touched upon it, you've got to look past the headline figure. You know, with any resource, sometimes if somebody just goes, this is the price of it, it's easy to just go, oh, you know, can't afford that. But when you actually break it down to, you know, per pupil, per experience, generally the schools I've been at, you know, we broke it down, that works out about £1.50 per pupil per experience, something like that. And when you look at the end of experience and you think, you know, would I have paid £25-30, whatever, for my class to have that experience? 1,000,000%, 1,000,000% when you compare that to maybe the cost of getting a visitor into school and what the children would have got for that. And so you've got to look at it from, you know, those type of, you know, strategic decisions as to like, where are we spending money currently to sort of provide that hook, that stimulus on the topic. And one of the other things I would say is, again, you know, we compare it to other immersive things, you know, maybe VR or whatever it might be, is one of the key differences is that, you know, you've really created your resource around the UK curriculum. It's not about trying to shoehorn it into the curriculum. You know, pretty much any major topic that you do in any subject in a UK primary school, there will be a Now Press Play experience for the major history, geography, science, whatever it might be, topics out there. With some other things, you know, you might have half a dozen things where you think, oh, well, yeah, I could maybe do that when I do space, or there's something on there, but you don't get that, you know, breadth of resources around the UK curriculum. So you are really getting, you know, value for money, because pretty much every experience, you know, you will be using them in more schools.
I would say as well as the kind of the mapping against the curriculum, you know, those key kind of calendar dates that you've got in, you know, so anti-bullying week, Black History Month, transition for year 6 into year 7, you know, you can really map it against your kind of your yearly calendar as well, and make sure that those experiences are built in throughout the year. And that's worked really well for us.
And it seems like when you're both speaking, it is that experience element that's really important. And I was at an event the other day, and they were talking about kind of edtech to pedtech, and like, what's the pedagogy? Why are you using this technology, or any technology, be it Now Press Play or another kind of digital resource, online resource?
It's transformative technology, isn't it? You know, a lot of technology that's come in over the 25 years I've been teaching is just replacement technology. You know, we've gone from, you know, like the blackboard to the dry whiteboard to the overhead projector to the LED screen. But has it really transformed how we teach? Not really. But, you know, something like Now Press Play is transformative technology. Like, you know, it offers something that cannot be, you know, delivered sort of through other methods. And you know, you know, David and I probably ran about 8 years, I think, sort of, you know, 2017, 2018, you know, were first introduced to Now Press Play. And let's be honest, by and large, when you have new things, you have maybe 6 months, 12 months or whatever where you infuse in. For us to be as infused, never mind the kids, you know, 8 years later, you know, about the product is testament to it. And, you know, you haven't had to particularly tweak or change the product really, because it was brilliant from day one. You've added new experiences, which is brilliant, but by and large, the Now Press Play that I am using now is the same Now Press Play as I was using 8 years ago. And, you know, again, the kids are like that. You know, you might have thought like, oh, well, are the kids still going to be as enthusiastic about a Now Press Play experience in year 6 when they've been using it for 4 or 5 years? Oh, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. And, you know, as David said, it doesn't sort of become like, oh, it's not cool anymore, anything like that. You know, year 6 are just as enthusiastic about Now Press Play as what reception are.
I think we talked about this already, didn't we? A bit about like low level behavior and how you really think it helps to kind of capture that and encouraging people to talk more, which is really interesting. And I know, Martin, you've done a lot of online safety, and you touched on this too, David, like it's great for those key moments in school that everybody does focus on. Has there been moments where it's kind of powerfully unlocked discussions there in a different way, because you've really spoken about that emotional connection with issues?
I think in terms of kind of a big focus for us here as a school, you know, has been for a while and continues to be, is that kind of emotional well-being, you know, particularly kind of post-pandemic. We've done a lot of work on that. Now Press Play has become a real key part of that sort of wider kind of well-being offer for that. And I think it is, you know, that opportunity for children to discuss, to develop empathy, put themselves in the shoes of the character. Like you said earlier, you know, there isn't really another resource I've come across yet that does that anywhere near as powerfully. You know, and again, you know, probably used the Ofsted word too much already, haven't I? But, you know, when you're thinking about kind of an inspection, you know, well-being is something that is obviously on the agenda and is asked about. And in one of the pupil voice activities, I know that talked about kind of well-being and sort of personal development with some of the pupils. And the inspector did say that, you know, Now Press Play, this resource was mentioned when the children were talking about things that help them with their emotions, with their feelings, and to talk about those emotions and feelings. So we found it has become a key part of that kind of wider emotional well-being offer that we've got as a school.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that, isn't it? You talked about the emotional literacy, but it is this vehicle of, you get to be in the shoes of another character and imagine what it's like, and also the sound effects and the journey you go on gives you an emotion. So therefore, you can sometimes talk about something that might be, difficult had you not gone through that joint experience with your class. Well, we're talking about the pupils, and I wondered if we should have a little listen, because some of your lovely students spoke to us when we were there. So I'm going to pop us over to a little reel from the children there. Bear with me one moment while I share. Oh, I think I just shared the same one, sorry. Let me just get the right video up for you. Here we go. Classic. It wouldn't be Zoom without a little mess up. Here we go.
I think it's fun because you get to become a tutor, because you can't be a tutor now because it was a thing back in the past, and I think it was fun because you get to express how that actually felt.
It helps me concentrate having the headphones on, because it feels more relaxing and calm, because if I have them on there won't be any like background noise or anything, because it'll just be all like the noises from the story.
I enjoy Now Press Play because when you get your headphones on, you feel like you're in the moment and you focus on that and not anything else, and it's like not a holiday, but it's like you get away from everything else.
You feel like you're in the story, but like the actions, like I wouldn't like just to sit there for like 30 minutes or something, just sit there and like listen to the story with headphones on. I would like to move around and like go to north, east, south, west and feel, because I would feel the actions, what they're feeling.
I like moving around in the hall more, because sitting in the classroom is boring.
What an ending. I'm sure she didn't mean it.
Yes, Libby, yeah, she just like to hear the lessons.
Hearing that, like, what does that make you think, David? Have your pupils said similar things or different things, maybe?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, I think very similar. I think our pupils definitely talk really enthusiastically, like Martin's pupils did there about Now Press Play. What comes up when we do any pupil voice afterwards is, and I think some of the kids there talked about being transported into another character or to a different period of time. Again, what resource does that? You could put a picture up on the board, you could look at books, but really that immersive element really does take them back with the sights being described to them, the sounds that's coming through the headphones. And there was a lad on there as well who talked about how it helps them to concentrate, and I think that's something that our pupils have said as well. That pupils that might struggle to concentrate in that more formal classroom setting, they find Now Press Play really beneficial in terms of that concentration, that engagement, and they say really similar things as well actually about that.
That way, we've said like how it's not the only way, but quite often it does get used as that hook for the topic. And if you think about for a child, if you've not been able to concentrate, or you've not taken on board the subject knowledge, the vocabulary, that key bit at the start of the topic, well, your interest, your ability, your focus is almost gone from minute one. So when you actually feel good about the topic, you feel good about it, because most kids do. They want to learn, they want to enjoy school and that. I know it might not be cool to say that, but they do. Kids want to feel good about themselves at school. So if you start a topic with that real enthusiasm, with real, oh yeah, I like the Tudors, I like the Roman, oh yeah, I feel like I can talk about it and have the confidence to put my hand up, like that tone that you've set for the half term is massive in that. And yes, you might only do Now Press Play once during that half term, but the impact of it carries on for 6-7 weeks, and you're still talking about, remember when did the Now Press Play experience, remember what happened to that character, and what was that called? So the impact from a vocabulary, of an enthusiasm, a subject knowledge of everything, like really builds throughout the topic, or at the end of a topic can be the real stimulus for your gold rate, your big rate, whatever you call it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say the same, Martin. We tend to, when we mapped it out, we tend to kind of front load it at the start of a topic, and it does just kind of produce that spark that you want. You know, you want to get that enthusiasm going for a topic as soon as you can, and it provides that, yeah, that sort of hook. But then what we've seen is that enthusiasm and engagement sort of continues throughout the topic. So yeah, it doesn't have to be used at the start, but we tend to, and it works really, really effectively, I would say, at the start as a bit of a launch lesson into a topic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the science ones you probably wouldn't launch, because you'd be building up some context, and then they would do electricity after you've built some of that foundation, and it's bringing it to life for them. And I think what I'm hearing from both of you is, it's as a tool, how do teachers use that resource beyond the experience itself, back in the classroom, extending it, and actually the longevity of it as you teach, you know, across the class and the week and the year and the year groups. I think it really does help give depth to what they're doing and learning with you. I just wanted to ask you a question. Well, basically, we're as storytellers, we really want to inspire interest in literacy and writing. And you've talked about it, David, with the creative writing. You were maybe going to see if you could bring a piece along. I wondered if you had it.
I found it. Yeah. So yeah, we do often use it as a stimulus for creative writing back in the classroom, which again, pupils can find difficult if the stimulus isn't quite right. If it's just a picture, some children don't learn from just looking at a picture. You know, that immersive element tends to lead to some really high quality writing. So I dug out, it was used on a display, I think for a couple of years ago. So it's been typed up for a display. The teacher had luckily had kept it. This was not a particularly, you know, high ability pupil, but had done the Vikings experience to start their Vikings topic, and the teacher had given them the opening sort of scene, which is where they're kind of standing on a beach ready to board this long ship to leave their homeland and go and sort of explore. So can I read it out? I've got time. It's not long. It's just a couple of paragraphs, but the quality, and this is year 4, based on that opening scene. So she'd put, suddenly I opened my eyes. I was on the sandy beach below my village. I could hear gentle waves and squawking seagulls overhead. Using my finger, I drew the outline of Thor's hammer in the sand. Quick, the ship is leaving soon, shouted my sister Freya. I ran after her towards the huge longship that would be my home for the next few weeks. I was scared and nervous, but we had to leave our village. The crops were not growing, and we would starve unless we left. I held Freya's hand tightly as we stepped onto the wooden boat. So a fantastic piece of writing. I think what you see in there is sounds. So, you know, through the audio from their headset, with kind of the gentle waves, the squawking seagulls, and emotions, you know, like we talked about earlier. I was scared and nervous, but I knew we had to leave our village. So, you know, I think as a kind of snapshot, if you like, of what can then be done in the classroom, you know, you can see the high quality impact that it does have in terms of that creative writing.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So I've got a final question. In 3 words, or a very short sentence if 3 is too difficult, what would you say for you sets Now Press Play apart?
Go on,
oh, you go first, man. You can nick the best words.
Can he do it in 3 though?
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got to go with immersive, emotive, and I'm going to say unique. Immersive, emotive, and unique.
David.
Yeah, I would go similar. Engaging, exciting, and enjoyable. You know, and I think children learn best when they're fully engaged and when they enjoy something. And like we've said tonight, I think Now Press Play, you get that full 100% engagement and enjoyment, which then can lead to some really good outcomes, you know, like we've seen there. Yeah, it's hard to pin it into 3 words, isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go for something like that.
No, I think that encapsulates it really well. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody attending. We hope that you've all learnt something new to inspire you. And thank you, David and Martin, because you've been brilliant giving us your time and hearing all your insights. But before we do go, I've got 2 exciting things that we're doing that we wanted to share. First of all, we're going to be doing our... You want me to mute? First of all, we're going to be doing our first live lesson ever. So that's going to be led by Oscar Wood, who's our product director, and he's a teacher, been a teacher as well. And he's going to be doing this interactive session, which brings our Christmas to life for Key Stage 1 pupils, and it's going to be followed by a fun quiz and discussion to deepen pupils' learning. So you can join in with your class. They'll be doing the Now Press Play session, as you saw, followed by the lovely interactive discussion. And then secondly, we're hosting a free Christmas taster day. So this is a chance to claim one of our 30 sets of festive headsets, and there is limited availability. So get that QR code on your phone now and book us in, and you could have Now Press Play in your school, testing it with your class. So we hope to see you at either of those. And again, a big thank you to you both, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.